We're going to solve this equation. Notice it has an m squared. If you have an equation with m squared or higher, then move everything to one side. If it's just an m, like a 9m equals 25, then just solve for m. Put your m's on one side, your constant terms on the other side. But m squared or higher, move everything to one side, and that's what we've done. Now the next step is to take out our greatest common factor. Notice we have an m in both terms, so I can take out an m, which will leave us m plus 9 equals 0. And we can double check. M times m goes back to m squared. M times 9 is 9m. Now, there's nothing to factor here. We have two factors, and this is called the zero factor property. Zero factor property, which means once you have factors, put them equal to 0, and you can solve. So I'm going to put the first factor m equal to 0. Well, that's solved. The second factor is m plus 9. I'm going to put it equal to 0 and solve for m. So that's the second factor. So m equals, move the 9 over, makes it negative 9. So our answer is m equals 0 and negative 9. So over here in the answer blank, you're going to make sure, write your answers as a list of integers or reduced fractions. So no decimals, write your answer separated by a comma. So we're going to write 0, comma, negative 9. This one, we see we have an n squared, so we're going to move everything to one side. Look to see if there's a greatest common factor. We can take 2, not out of 21, but we can take 3 out of all of those. So I'm going to take a 3 out, which will leave me 2n squared. And I can't take an n out because there's not an n in every term, plus 7n minus 4 equals 0. So double check with distributive property. 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 7, 21, 3 times negative 4, negative 12, so that's good. So now I have 3 terms that I want to factor. I'm just going to bring down this 3, and you can factor this 2n squared plus 7n minus 4. You can do where you multiply the 2 times negative 4 and split that middle. That will work. I'm just going to do it the traditional way because I think that's faster. But you do whichever way works best for you. So I've taken everything out I can. I'm going to have n times 2n, that's my only choice. And 4 could be 1 times 4 or 2 times 2. So I just, over here to the side, I'm going to have to use 2n and n or it won't factor. Well, they're trying for us to solve. They would tell us to use the quadratic formula if it wouldn't factor. So if they tell you to solve this by factoring, it's going to factor, okay? You're not going to get a prime. It is going to factor. And then we can't use the 2 and the 2, because if we were to use the 2 and the 2, we would have to put a 2 here, and that says there's a GCF, a greatest common factor, and we know there isn't one. So we know we can't use the 2, because we already know there's not a common factor we can take out. So I'm going to mark the 2. It's going to have to be 1 and 4. I can't put the 4 here because that would be with the 2. So I'm going to have to put the 1 here. And notice I haven't really done any math yet. The 1 here and the 4 here. I know my signs have to be different. I check my outside and my inside because I want to get it to positive 7n. So this would be outside. 2n times 4 is 8n. Inside, 1 times n is 1n. I'm going to subtract those and get a positive 7n. Well, to do that, this has to be negative and this has to be positive. So that means this has to be a positive and this has to be a negative to multiply back to 2n squared plus 7n minus 4. And distributive property there to double check, or FOIL, 2n times n is 2n squared, 2n times 4 is my 8n right here, negative 1n right there, and then negative 4 on the ends, so it does check. So I have 2n minus 1 and n plus 4. So everything's factored. I'm going to put each factor equal to 0. So 3 is a factor equal to 0. Well, 3 does not equal 0, so you could just leave that off. And my next factor has a variable in it. So if it doesn't have a variable in it, you're just going to leave it off. But if it does, say we took out 3n, then we'd have to solve 3n for n. So this is 2n equals positive 1, n equals 1/2. This was n plus 4 equals 0, so n equals -4. So our answer is, oh, and here they give us 2 blanks, so we can put 1/2 here and -4 here. It doesn't matter where you put them.